Hi everyone, welcome to the first part of this tutorial where we will be drawing a fuzzy wuzzy bee on a flower. I did draw this piece a long time ago, but I drew it about half the size of this, so I drew it quite small. And this one I'm going to be working back on Pastelmat, and this is the maize colour Pastelmat. You can use whatever colour you like. I just had some of this. I was going to look into do it maybe on the dark green, light green, possibly a warm grey. This is kind of like a neutral one that will allow me to work the background and the flower without me having to create too much work to override any real obvious bright or dark underlying tone from the Pastelmat. Now, I've got one slight issue to start with. So you can see here, this is just the transfer image that I'm going to use, and I'll show you how we're going to transfer the image over in a second. Now, I've been working recently just by doing a printout, but if you compare this to, I'll pop the image up on the screen, to the reference photo that I'm seeing on my screen, it's completely different. And so what I've decided to do, it's going to be a bit awkward for me, but I am going to have to switch to working from my laptop because this is just, every time I print it, it's coming out too red. You can see the difference just between this and this. Actually, this is a lot softer. If I went with working on this and gave you a materials list, what you would see on your screen or your own printout would be completely different. This is coming out way too red, which is a bit annoying. So I'm going to use the reference photo to do the background and possibly the bee and the yellow here, because that's okay. It's just when we come to the petals, I'm going to need to switch that out and use the screen. So I'll probably get my laptop or even my tablet up next to me. I stopped using my screen to work from a long time ago, so I found I was just, I'm staring at a computer way too long during the day anyway, so it just means I was staring at it even more as I was drawing, and also I just started to focus too much on detail and zooming in all the time, and you don't need to, and I'm always trying to tell you to, just relax about the detail, unless you want to be completely obsessed with it. Excuse me. So first of all, we want to transfer our image across. Now I'm spoiling myself and working on an A3 sheet, so approximately 12 by 16 sheet. Just zoom out for you. Okay, so I've got a nice border around, and then it also allows me on this side, you can see I've just been messing around with playing with some of the colours that I'm going to use already. So again, do that yourself as well. Try and just colour match up some of your greens, because yours, like I say, your image might look different on your screen or on your printout to what mine does. So try and match up your colours. Obviously you can follow mine if you like for the guide. So to transfer the image, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be really careful about this time, because before I have allowed this to slip. Excuse me. So I'm just going to mark in those corners there. I might just do the ones at the bottom as well. And then I know that if I lose any of my lines or want to pop this back on there, I can pop that back on. And what I'm going to do as well is possibly mask this off with some tape, so I've got a nice frame to work up to. Okay, so that being done, I am just now going to flip this over, and if you see, if I hold it up to the light there, I can see roughly where my image is. Now you could use transfer paper if you want, or you could do the line impression that I normally use, the indentation. What I'm going to do is show you a different way of doing it. So what you can do is find a colour that closely matches some of the colour in your piece, the areas. I'm not going to worry about the green area obviously, so we're just looking at the petals, the basic shapes. And so I pulled out a Pompeian red and also a light yellow ochre. We'll just map in the bee as well. And what we're going to do is treat this a little bit like we would a layer of transfer pigment. So I can see that comes up to here, so all I'm going to do is just come in here and lay down. You could do this, you could lay down just a nice layer of pastel if you want. So I'm just using the side of my pencil there. And just making sure I get a nice even layer of pigment down. I've come up into that yellowy petal area, or not petal, the centre of the flower, or the yellow area there as well. And the difference with doing it this way is with the indentation tool method, you get your lines to stay there. With this method, we're probably going to lose our lines quite early on. I was tempted to create this one using watercolour pencils, but I've done quite a few tutorials using watercolour pencils, and I'm possibly going to do it. I've got a couple more lined up very soon. So instead, I am going to do a colour pencil background. And we will be using some solvent, but if you want to switch out and use watercolour pencils for the background, if you don't like the smell of the solvent, if it affects you, you can do so. And then again, I'm doing this over my Pastelmat, it's absolutely fine, I'm not damaging the Pastelmat, it's only one, oops, she says, I've just made a mark, I'm going to lift that off. So you can lift your Pastelmat away, you're not damaging it doing this as long as you don't do something silly like I just did there. So yeah, so we're going to use pit pens with solvent just to show you how you can use them for an underpainting. And it means you just get the image blocked in quite quickly, but you keep all of the tooth really back. So I'm just going to use a tiny bit of this up and through here. But then for the bee itself, I'm just going to switch over this light yellow ochre, but as long as you pop in something yellowy, actually this might not show up because we're going onto that maze, we'll try it. What I might do is have to switch out and actually pop a darker tone in there, just so it shows up. In fact, I'll switch it out now for a walnut brown, and that way we know we can just map in our wings, or wing. Let's just map in the bee. I'm just going to rub this over the whole bee area, and then we know that the brown is going to show up. All these lines will disappear once we get going. Okay, so you can see there, I've put some pigment pretty much over the whole reverse side of the bee and the flower, using a similar coloration that we'll be using on the piece itself. So I'm just going to lift this off with a little touch of putty rubber, and then we shall get going with transferring the lines over. Okay, so all I've done now is just popped my image back in place, matched up the corners there, so it's nice and central on my sheet of paper, and I'm just going to grab another magnet. I don't want this image to move. There we go. So now I've picked up my stylus. I'm going to use the fine end. So some of these lines will imprint across, but what I'm trying to do is literally just get a nice transfer line coming through. So first thing I'm going to do is just come in here. I'm okay with my pressure. Flick it up, and you should just be able to see there a hint of that line coming through. Like I say, it's not going to be as obvious as if we were using a dark transfer paper. just every now and again flick up, and there you can see, let me zoom in for you. So there you can see the lines coming through. Okay, so we're just going to do that all over now. So nice, consistent pressure. If you need to spin your paper when you're doing this, absolutely fine, obviously, because I'm doing this for the camera. A little bit more awkward for me to do that. And you can actually feel with your finger where you've been with your stylus. So I'm going to just mark in some of these little I forgot what the word is. We did it all in biology. Stamen, the little yellow bits where Mr. Buzzy Bee comes in and gets all the food. That's what he's got all built up on there, all the pollen. Just check how we're going. So yeah, it's transferring across really nicely, and as I say, it's not in a colour. The graphite is just never really nice to use because it's, one, it's messy, and two, it's graphite. Graphite doesn't mix well with colour pencil. So this is just showing you a different way of doing it. Let's move that up. Okay, so up to Mr. Fuzzy Wuzzy Beef now. It's just transferring across the main shapes. So we've got the shape there going around of his head. There's little reflections. That little yellow patch. Be really careful popping your wings in. You don't want to make them any thicker than they are, because it will really throw the whole piece out later on. I love how fluffy these bumblers are. That should do for Mr. Busy Bee. Okay, so back to putting these petals in. The nice thing again about this is the soft out of focus effect of some of these petals. I'm just putting in the main outlines and some little guidelines in between. So I might actually have to spin my paper in a second. I've discovered that actually from my last video tutorial I did. I didn't get myself comfy and I was working to try and match the fit around the camera, etc. And I ended up, it did not help me. So what I'm going to do is just spin this around so that I am, in fairness to me, drawing in the direction that my hand most naturally wants to go. Let me just make sure I've got that in shot. There we go. So that's very much an out of focus petal. The edge there. Making sure it's all still transferring over, and again this line here quite out of focus, so I'm just almost like dotting that line in with big dashes. This piece would work beautifully. Pretty much all pan pastels, to be honest, for the background and the foreground. I'm kind of tempted now. I'm sat thinking now, like, do I really want to do this in pencils? Honest answer is I'm going to do it in pencils and pit pens, but I think if you wanted to have a go at this using pan pastels, you'd get a beautiful effect for the background and the petals. And also then you could just do these details of the bee and the centre of the flower using colour pencils to really sharpen them up. It also looked good on using the brush and pencil blender. That would help create the lovely smooth background. Actually, do you know, maybe we won't use OMS, maybe we'll use the blender instead, because I've not used that before, so that would be really interesting to do that. So I will give it a go. It would work better on a more sanded surface, but I know it can work. See, all these thoughts going through my mind. You kind of set out on a piece thinking, okay, I'm going to do it this way, and I actually was going to do this on Never Tear, and I've been messing around for a good couple of hours on the Never Tear, and I just didn't like the effects I was getting. Never Tear, I think I'm going to save that for doing fur work. Works really great, very similar to drafting film, apart from obviously it's opaque and bright white. So yeah, maybe we will use We get lots in on this tutorial then. It will be a background, a little furry animal, it'll be colour pencils, it'll be using Pitt pens, and also the colours, the blending powder. So that's our line drawing transferred now. So let's have a quick look, make sure we've got everything we need, all the little lines. Looks like I've done them all. Maybe just that one there. Oh, I haven't got that one there by the looks of things. So that's it, you can just touch and feel or flick. Your piece up. There we go. So I'm going to take that off now, and what I'm going to do is just, and I'll show you what I do. So I'll just move my magnets up out of the way, and then I want to give myself a frame. So I'm going to grab my brown framers tape, self-adhesive framing tape. This is from the SAA, but you can get it, let's say, from eBay, pretty much anywhere. So those corners that I marked in earlier on. Okay, before I do that, I realised a slight error that I was doing. Just need to come in on the reverse of this corner here, because it's not the outside corners that we're marking, it's the inside corners. So just want to come over those corners with a little bit of pigment. Pop this back down into position, so just match up that corner there, that corner there. And what we'll do, just grab our stylus again. Mark in that corner edge there, that corner edge there, and our bottom corners. There we go. Now we can lift away, and when we put our tape down, those will be the corners that will be making our frame. So get your brown tape. Lay it up against those corners. That should give you a nice straight edge there. There we go. Same on this side. And what this stops you doing is taking your pencil out over that edge unnecessarily, and it just gives you a really nice frame. It also gives you so much satisfaction right at the end of the piece when you peel off. There we go. Pull down, and one piece across the top. There, so that's our frame that we're going to be working up to, and it's just more than A4. The full sheet, the full transfer sheet was A4, so this is just under, so it's about 8 inch by 11, no, just under 8 inch by 11.5 inch for a guess. Okay, so what I will do, as we know we're probably going to be losing some of these lines, is just going to come in and mark them in a little bit firmer, some of them, especially these ones where we're going up around that top edge, and we're going to be doing the background. spin around. There, that should be okay. So as long as we're using our glassine over the rest of it, we won't lose any of those lines. But if you want to pop them in, that's fine. I might carry on now and just pop those in, so when we come back, you'll be able to see them a lot clearer on the camera.